is going on? Hi, everybody out there in Facebook world and YouTube and wherever you're signing in from. This is brand new. It's just something we just kind of came up with. We wanted to hang out with these guys that are on your screen right now. We hadn't seen them in a while. And we thought, why don't we just do all of this together?
Yeah, Brady Bunch style at the moment.
It's strange days indeed that are going on. And, oh, here they are.
Here they are.
Hey, you two. Speaking of
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
So we're live now on Facebook team, just as a heads up. So welcome David and Lisa. And I was just explaining the genesis of this idea was that we actually hadn't caught up with each of you individually in quite some time. We thought, how about we just do it on a big call? And then we thought, what an interesting dinner party to attend. Quite often you get asked these questions about who would you have at a dinner party. Mm-hmm. I think this is pretty much as good as it gets. So without further ado, I want to reach out and introduce everybody. So Steve, if you wouldn't mind flashing them up full screen when we give them an intro, maybe that's a good idea.
Just explain to everybody who Steve is because they don't know.
Steve he's the man in the sky who is controlling all of this stuff
pushing all the buttons
from the ether web. Yes. Hey, everybody at home who's watching, please meet Dr. David Bichelle. He is a pediatric cardiac surgeon at Vanderbilt University here in Vanderbilt Hospital here in Nashville.
Baby heart surgeon.
And he's a bit of a legend. He's a terrible cricket player. But
he gave it a go, though. He gave it a red hot go.
But
I gave it a try.
He's good on the tools.
He needs his hands, though. So he was no good, getting at one of those nasty, ball to the fingers would have been very bad.
He's good on the tools.
I'm more about the fine motor thing, but the big whack
is tough.
Stuff, not so good. The cricket.
Now, I'll also introduce his wife, who is a neuroscientist, Dr. Terry Jo Bichelle.
Hi.
What's up, Terry Jo?
Hi, how are you?
Now we're going to switch gears. We're going to go from Nashville up to California. Mr. Hollywood himself, Mick Hardcastle. What's up, Mick?
Hey, what's up? Oh, look, I'm just been very busy injecting disinfectant into myself and trimming my mustache with kitchen scissors. Hanging out in Hollywood. How are you guys? I'm so happy to see you.
I know.
It's so good to see you. You look fabulous, as always.
He's actor, director, all-around heartthrob, and it's great to catch up with him. It's been quite a while. Let's switch gears again and go south to Sydney, Australia, where we've got Rob Hurst, who is a singer, songwriter, an author. And a drummer.
Father.
And a drummer for the band Midnight Oil. What's up, Rob?
Well, we're all recovering from Anzac Day down here, which was a very early morning yesterday. That's for the Americans, that's like Veterans Day. And so everyone was up with a very loud bugle call at 6 a.m.
Were you in the driveway?
Yeah, it was a driveway. And it was really very affecting, very moving because people had candles all up and down the street. And someone on the back of a truck must have had a PA. So the last post was bellowed out across the valley where we live. So everyone was up and everyone did what they were supposed to do, get out on the driveways with a candle to remember our diggers. And my grandfather was a First World War veteran. My father fought in New Guinea in the Second War. So we've got a strong connection there. And so to top it off, I couldn't resist. I took a snare drum out, Jay, and did a slow march as well. Right. So anyone that was still trying to sleep, forget it.
Right.
That makes me cry. It makes me miss
so we're all a bit tired and emotional here after that.
I bet.
Yeah,
now,
beautiful. That's so great.
Felicity, you look like Felicity, by the way, is Australia's leading lady of country music who recently picked up, was it 6?
As many awards as there are at the Commonwealth Golden Guitars, the CMAA is the Country Music Awards of Australia. Yeah, she's the golden lady.
She got 6 of them this year. And where are you, Fliss?
I'm on the Central Coast in New South Wales, in Kangiangi, in the studio. I've escaped the kids and they're still in their Jimmy Jams. And I said, just going to go and do a little chat. Don't come up or the rest of the world will see your jammies and your crazy hair. So they'll probably want to come in here in 5 minutes.
So I'm sorry. I thought there was a bit of a glitch there. It sounded like you said Kangiangi. Was that sounded like not a real place, that just kind of like a voice kind of
Well, I'm a little disappointed I didn't get one of those big signs like Nick's got saying California. It should say Kangi Yangi back here. Might have to make one for next time.
Nice. Now, David and Lisa, what's up, guys? We've got a theatre producer and a casting agent with Lisa, and we've got David, who's a singer and a TV host. Mate, you did a huge job last night on the Anzac Day live broadcast. How was that?
How was it?
It was really powerful and really emotional. You know, I speak to what Rob was saying before. It's such an important day for people who are watching from America or anywhere else overseas. It's a really important day for Australia and New Zealand and to celebrate our Anzac culture here and acknowledge the many, many people that lost their lives, you know, in wars for our freedoms. But it was also a concert that sort of stretched out to include the front line. So people who are working on this COVID frontline right now. So that's, you know, anyone from, you know, obviously the medical community to assistants and teachers, people stacking shelves, truck drivers who are, you know, helping keep, you know, supplies going. So it was really emotional. And Michael Gadinsky, who's one of the top promoters here in this country, basically reached out to my father, who's also a rock musician here, and they called around every single one of their mates, and they might have missed a few, Rob, so we have to do part 2 next year. But they called around to a lot of people they could, and, you know, Crowded House reformed for it, for the Americans who know they've been on it. Every Australian artist, it felt like that was around, and everybody, it was, I guess it was like the American concert that happened last week with Lady Gaga. Yep. Yeah. So it was like that here, and I was one of the hosts with a couple of other incredible performers like Delta Goodrum and Guy Sebastian. So it was an incredibly powerful, moving and uplifting evening, and one that was, you know, I was saying to Lisa when I got home last night, you know, it will never happen again. That, you know, hopefully, I mean, maybe the doctors can speak to this, hopefully this will never happen again, and we will never be isolated and have to perform concerts and reach out to people trapped in their living room. But it was all Aussie music, guys, and this is the important thing for the O'Sheas. All Aussie music on commercial TV, uninterrupted, no competition, no raising money. It was an extraordinary night, and people were going crazy for it.
Wow.
Just for the
just
for the Americans, that's a pretty rare thing to have all Australian content of our own on network television. Hey, I want to give a shout out.
Is it recorded, and can others see it?
It's on. It's been on Twitter. You could probably try and find it on the 9 Now website. They might be doing links to it. I don't know if they're going to do it, but knowing the impresario producer Michael Gadinsky and knowing what he's like, and a few of us here do, I'm sure he's going to find a way to get it out there even further and wider.
Right. Awesome. We'd love to see that.
I hate to interrupt the great vibes, but I wanted to say hi to everybody watching again, and tell us where you're tuning in from. I've already got a bunch of comments here that I'm going to reach out to a couple of folks that have said. Chad here says he's reaching out from Gunu Gunu.
Gunu Gunu?
Also a made-up name.
Yangi?
Also a
Gunu. Sorry, Gunna
Gunu.
Pardon me. I should know that.
I don't mean to rain on that.
We've got Nikki Merritt tuning in here from New Zealand, who has a child with a congenital heart defect. Huge shout out there. Emma McTavish from Ingle Farm. There you go.
Oh, Jay. That's our people. That's
right.
Nick Rav Kumar says hi to Nick. We've got people tuning in from the Gold Coast. Hi, Lynn.
All right.
Sue Wilson.
Scott Priestley tuning in from Newcastle area.
Natalie Donnelly.
From Brisbane. Everybody's tuning in. So anyway.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody. And please keep the
us.
comments coming. So this is a very informal conversation. We don't really have a huge agenda. We just want to say hi and talk about what's going on, because I'm going to tell you, the experience that we're having here in Nashville, even in our suburb, is probably vastly different to the experience that David and Terry Joe are having, that Rob and Nick and everybody else in very different parts.
Completely different experience.
And that's just in America. And then, of course, what's happening in Australia and other parts of the world, there again is completely different. So I could, if I may, Dave. So David and Terry Joe are married, but they're not in the same shot. Can we address this? What is going on there?
Yeah, we only communicate by computer. It's, you know, things are not like they used to be. Actually, it's not as bad as that sounds. So Terry Joe, actually, we are fortunate in so many ways. Louis, our son, who you heard a little while ago, perhaps has has some people who help him out. And we have a cottage in the backyard. And various people stay there in return for helping out a little bit with Louis. And I don't want to make the story as long as it could be, but we've got extraordinarily talented jazz musicians who are currently filling that role. And when the shelter-in-home situation began, we locked down our little island here. And we're delighted to have an island that is filled with talent. And there are a bunch of people here who are not venturing off campus and therefore can't get infected with COVID. And lots of logical care is being taken with groceries and all of that sort of thing.
Oh my God, we eat so well.
The whole house is an island that is experiencing experience A. And I, however, am working in a hospital, so I leave the island and therefore am the contaminado. And I haven't gotten sick. I'm not sick, but I sure don't want to be one to bring it to the island. So I have an island within the island, and that's why we're coming to you from different parts of the house.
We slide his food under the crack in the door.
Yeah.
We make him stay in the back bedroom. The rest of us stay.
I know it's coming because I can hear when the dogs are being fed and then the cat, and then I know that my plate's coming next.
just to frame that, that's because you're still working at the hospital doing surgery on the daily. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, so what I do doesn't change at all because kids are born with heart problems and they need to get fixed. And there's a statewide, should be national restriction for obvious reasons from doing elective surgery and having a lot of unnecessary traffic in the hospital. But what we do is not particularly elective. It's not by choice and it has to happen. So our show goes on and we take a lot of precautions, but it's still exposure every day.
Right.
So Dave, sorry. So
go ahead, Rob.
Are you living on pizzas, crepes, and flounder, which is all that can be slid under the door?
That's right. Only very thin things.
Baloney.
Lucky you like all those things.
That's great. Yeah.
Flat.
Yeah.
Not cubed cheese, but sliced cheese.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to seeing a three-dimensional meal again. It'll be.
Dave, what are the major differences that you've noticed at the hospital? Going into work every day, how's it different?
Well, it is. So the things that you've probably seen on the news and have heard about every day. I go to work. Before entering the building, I stand 6 feet apart from the next person going in the building, get my temperature taken, get a sticker to certify that I don't have a fever. And then I scurry up a stairwell so as not to ride an elevator. And I do my rounds and they're getting a patient ready. And then I go and do surgery. So that's what I do. The rest of the hospital, administrative people are working from home. So there are a lot of closed doors. And in the medical areas, everything is sort of business as usual, a little more of a skeleton crew. Little more stuff that you got to do on your own. But what's really palpably different is when you go into the office area and all the doors are closed and everybody's working from home. So it's a little spooky. It's a little weird, but parts of it are just like it's always been.
Okay.
Well, and he's used to wearing a mask. He always wears a mask. Everybody around him wears a mask. So he doesn't really notice.
I was going to ask, so for David Campbell, switching gears, and Lisa, what was that experience like hosting externally and remotely last night, as opposed to going into work?
Oh no, I was in at work, so I actually was in the studio because media in Australia and people who are working in media are still seen as on the bottom end, and can I say very much the bottom end of essential workers, because I know there are people who are far more higher up and should be than we are. But we're providing a service because we're providing information. The show that I do is, even though it's a morning, you guys have been on it, and Jay was just on it recently with Rob, even though it's kind of more of an entertainment-based show, we are connected to what everyone knows as the worldwide brand of the Today Show. I'm just after the Today Show. So if there's still breaking news, and certainly there's been a lot of it, we have someone on our news desk, which we do a lot of breaking news and rolling news coverage on our show, as well as entertainment and lots of light things in better times. So I've been given permission to sort of be in the studio more than most other people in the network.
You have to carry your papers.
I have to have my papers on me, and I have to have my pass and meal time in case I get pulled over by the police. And so,
wow.
Yeah, that's it. That's really if I'm out, and I'm never out reporting. There are reporters who go out and do that, but if I had to go out and report, I have to have papers on me to have permission. When it was a really big lockdown, it was very serious. Yeah, we had to have that. But last night I did from a studio. Everyone else did remotely from their homes.
Gosh, that's crazy. That's like World War II times or something. Can I ask you, David and Lisa, if you wouldn't mind telling us a bit about it, about the Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson situation that happened? If you're okay talking about.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. It was bizarre. So Tom was here filming the Baz Luhrmann.
It's Tom, by the way. It's Tom. It's not Tom Hanks.
Let me preface by saying, if you get coronavirus from somebody in Hollywood, it's a first name basis. Okay.
Hardcastle knows all about that.
Yeah, exactly. No, so Tom and Rita were here doing something. I don't know them personally. I'm just using their names. And Rita was doing a show at the Sydney Opera House that weekend, and she had agreed to do publicity like a lot of people do on TV, and so she'd done the show before us and our show, but she'd only sung on the Today Show, but she did an extended interview on our show because we'd already crossed to her 6 months prior. She was like, "Oh, I'll come into the studio." So she came in, she was lovely, but she was very, and we're talking, so for the doctors out there and people keeping count, early March?
Mid-March.
Mid-March.
So you were doing all of your distancing. So everyone was sitting,
everyone was just starting to nudge apart and all that sort of stuff. But Australia certainly wasn't looking at it like it's a total lockdown. But we were being mindful of Italy and the rest of the world. So she came in and she was all like, "Oh, look, elbows." She was charming. She was in the chair for about 10 minutes. She hung out with the producer and did her song, pre-recorded that and left. And about 3 days later, I got a call saying Tom and Rita have been diagnosed as positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. I then immediately, you were casting at the time.
Yeah, so I've been casting Moulin Rouge, which is on Broadway at the moment. Not at the moment, but has been running on Broadway for the last year, and is moving to Australia, and we're going to have a production here opening, hopefully, or it was scheduled to be next June. No word on that, but let's see how we go. And so I was in Melbourne during all of this.
Yeah.
In groups of people, maybe seeing in a dance call 50 people per hour in a big room, but still a bunch of very, very sweaty people in close proximity.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that in Melbourne, and we were scheduled to come and start doing that in Sydney. And then suddenly I get the call that David's now in quarantine. Our kids are in quarantine. Everything's there. So I come home from Sydney, and I have to stay in a hotel because I can't continue doing my job, seeing them and seeing 50 people at a time.
Yeah.
So I took the kids out of school straight away. So I came and picked them up, and the school was great. I said, I won't come inside. I'll leave the car running. Please take the kids to the gate, and then they can run to the car. And, really trying to be extremely careful and really mindful, because I was in the media reading about all the stuff that we had to do. And at this stage, our government, we've had very mixed messaging from federal and state governments.
Also, it was really, across about 3-day period.
Yeah.
So we started this, and we got the shutdown on the Thursday, and by the Sunday, everything had changed within Australia, really, and attitudes and information had changed. And so we went from hearing, okay, well, we need to just be mindful and wash our hands.
You can still shake hands and do stuff.
To that's it, we're over. All of our auditions went straight onto online. So now they continued, but only videos. And I got to come home.
Yeah, because I was cleared.
Then suddenly everything is being changed. The whole theatre industry is shut down. The restrictions of gatherings for more than 2 people came in. Yeah. That's it. There is no more theatre.
Sports is over. The arts industry has been decimated here, so it's been really rough.
So it's weird.
Can I jump from that experience because I know what ours is like, and we can touch on ours in a minute, but I'm more interested in hearing from everybody else. But Nick, what was going on in California and LA, and how did that transpire? Was it roughly the same timing, or was it sooner, or was it as like...
Was it Tom again, Nick? Was it Tom?
Yeah. Well, as soon as they heard about Tom, they shut down everything because of royalty here. No, it was sooner. It was much sooner here. I was working on a couple of shows. The first one was going to open on April 17, and on March 10, we decided to pull the pin on that, and then Broadway shut down 2 days later. Film production continued for another probably week, and then film and television production will shut down as well. Hollywood is a ghost town everywhere. And I live on Hollywood Boulevard. I shouldn't have said that. I live on Hollywood Boulevard.
All your fans are going to come and find you now. They know
All 6 of them. I live on Hollywood Boulevard.
They knew, mate.
If you go further east, that's the big tourist precinct, you know, where the Walk of Fame is and the Chinese Theatre, etc. And it's tumbleweeds. It's so weird. It's kind of like our version of Times Square, if you can imagine Times Square being, you know, which it is, as you know, also a ghost town at the moment. Okay. But our governor and our mayor acted really swiftly, and the city has behaved like incredibly well and respectfully.
So if it's tumbleweeds, it might be a good time to make some westerns.
Don't be dissing country.
Oh, is he here all night? Please say he's here all night.
Yeah. I was going to jump in and say it reminds me of that scene in Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise, the other Tom.
I would say I totally agree, except I never saw Vanilla Sky.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Felicity, what has it been like on the Central Coast?
Well, it has been very odd. Not the tumbleweeds so much, but you could go to the shop and supermarket people are around. There's a lot of awareness of keeping the space, but if someone coughs in the aisle, you kind of watch your back and turn around and find a mum with a couple of kids wearing face masks, and that's a bit of a daunting thought to look around and see. And then you think, do they just have a little cold, or is it a bit more sinister? And you try and scoot around as quickly as you can and get home and try and have someone watch the kids so they're not coming out with you. And then they're all sort of worried about, I don't want to catch the virus, Mum. You go out and make sure you wash your hands when you come home, and you bring the fruit in, and then they're wash, and they're really aware of it. And I don't want them to be fearful in some unrealistic way and just say, well, we're going to get through this and then you'll go back to school. Yes, yeah. You will go back. I haven't enjoyed the homeschooling aspect at all. So that's been my most overwhelming part of all of this. And you still want your kids to be, you know, learning and moving forward in their lives and reading and concentrating and moving baby steps forward, but it's a bit hard when I'm not a teacher. I can hand them an instrument.
How old are your kids?
They are 7 and 9, close to yours as well.
Yeah. Yes, and we have 2 girls of course as well, and Felicity and I were pregnant but at the same time. And I was going to ask you actually, like, you know, from the mother perspective, and Felicity is a single mother, you know, it's incredibly difficult. I know what it's like having a partner and doing this as a team. Honestly, I can't imagine how much harder it would be to be a single mother going through this, trying to keep your career going and doing all the work that you have to do, your recording, your interviews. You have ABC Saturday Night Radio and loads of other shows that you do. And then you've got to homeschool 2 young children and ensure their happiness and well-being on a day-to-day basis. I mean, if you can just give us a little bit of an insight on how that's been for you.
Well, it has been testing for everybody, because the kids also get a bit at each other because there's not the breakaway to go and see their friends. So there's certainly that. Yes, they love each other, but you know, I don't know how many times a day I'm putting fires out with them. Then there's mummy having to do my work, and I'm very lucky I have a studio where I haven't had to go into the ABC, so I've been able to chug along and do my weekly Saturday night 4 hours on air of the program, and that's marvelous. So yeah, I've still had a job. All the live gigs have gone, so all the touring just was cut, like you were saying, Lisa, that all of our live work's out the window. and touring plans, and on the back of a really great January with a few of those golden guitar wins, it was kind of nice to roll off the back of that. So that's just pause. But everyone's in the same boat, so I understand that. My main focus is just wanting to still be a good mother, a good parent. That's actually what my heart sings loudest.
Yeah.
Years in the future, they'll be able to tell the homeschooled 2020 kids, because they're the ones when they reach 21 still signing their name with a big cross.
Right. Yourself.
I was going to jump to Rob and say, you had some plans for later in the year. You guys have been working pretty hard, and I'm assuming, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Rob, but I'm assuming that's all come to a screeching halt.
A couple of big projects in the works.
Okay, so, Jay and I were really lucky that we got our little project in just before the lockdown. For those that don't know, Jay and I made an album. We did it pretty much the way you make albums during the COVID period, back and forwards for 18 months. So we were just ahead of the game. Although I did come to Nashville for a week and we recorded there, and Jay came over a couple of times. Jay came in February this year, which seems like years ago now.
It does, doesn't it?
And we managed to do a round of press, mainly with dear old ABC. God save Auntie ABC.
God save Fliss. And
what would we do without the ABC in this country? Felicity knows, yeah. And a couple of commercial channels too, David. So we were lucky. We managed to promote that album. It was called, what was it called, Jay?
The Lost and the Found.
It's called The Lost and the Found. It seems like years ago as well. Anyway, that went out there. We went and did a show in Melbourne, did some press in Sydney, and then everything, as Felicity was saying, everything stopped, all the live gigs. Now, with my other band, Midnight Oil, we recorded before Christmas 20 brand new songs for the first time in almost 20 years.
Wow.
With our Diesel and Dust era producer, Warren Livesey, who's English but lives in Canada. And he came out and we made 2 albums worth. So the first album, which was supposed to be released around about now, was in collaboration with a whole lot of First Nations musicians and singers here in Australia. Yeah. People that Australians would know, people like Jess Malboy and Dan Sultan, Frank Yammer, Kev Carmody, Leah Flanagan, Ursula Jovich, a whole lot of people we'd never worked before with, but whose work we admired. And so it's a mini album. There's, I think it's 8 songs on it. Warren Livesey's mixed it beautifully. It's all ready to go. We have the artwork. And, of course, we've got no gigs now to do it. There's a big gig here called Splendor in the Grass. We were going to headline that. That's been moved back to October. But it seems uncertain as to whether that will go ahead. Probably not this year. We were also, literally yesterday, the band should have been appearing on the Mall in DC for 50 years of Earth Day with a whole lot of acts and other people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that was really disappointing that was cancelled. So there was other festivals as well that were booked. That's all been cancelled. So we had a conference call the other day. Nothing as sophisticated as this. And we decided that if we can't play, we really want to get that album out. And if we can't play in front of a live audience, we might do something a little bit like the famous Last Waltz that the band did, whereby we set the stage in an old theatre, light it really well, record it really well, and hopefully Auntie ABC or similar will take it as a special before the end of the year. So we will go ahead and release that mini album and get all the collaborators from the Indigenous community here in Australia to come in and do their bit. And that's kind of where we're up to with that.
Oh, wonderful.
That's a beautiful idea. I love that.
Wonderful. So it's funny because, not funny, but the way that it has affected everybody from, burgeoning musical artists to the theatre world to medical practitioners to yourself, with a sort of, fairly well-known iconic rock band. It doesn't take any prisoners. It's not selective about who it affects or who it doesn't affect. I think that's kind of interesting.
No, we've lost a whole lot of really high-profile people, including people in music. And but I was curious, just to ask the Americans and the Aussies that are living in America, because as from last night, 80 Australians, mainly from a cruise ship, and almost all the rest in elderly people in nursing homes have died. That's 80. The last count, I think around about 52,000 Americans have died. And I just wondered, I don't know if you want the conversation to go in this direction, Mark and Jay. I just wondered what you think over there about the leadership, the lack of leadership, the fake news, a president with no experience, looking after his corporate mates. He wants the economy going. He's prepared to sacrifice thousands of people in order to be re-elected because a strong economy is all he's got going for him. Well, that's the way it seems from here. I just wondered what everyone thought about that over there.
So I think it's an interesting point, and without getting too political on my end.
Damn.
Oh, go right ahead.
Damn.
No, hold Terry Jo.
Terry Jo will. She's dying.
Terry Jo.
Terry.
Jumping through the computer right now.
I wanted to preface this by saying you bring up a great point, not necessarily like pro or anti Republican or one way or another, but the news system, and that's part of the reason why we want to have this conversation, because the news system over here is so polarized.
It's ridiculous.
And it's almost, and my perspective of the news system, let me phrase that by saying, is that it's so polarizing. I can predict what the insert here host on CNN is going to say about a particular subject, just as I can on Fox about the very same subject. It is so it's almost laughable.
You have to kind of just watch both,
so
you sort of find some sort of truth lies in the middle somewhere about it.
Right, but the issue is that the general public doesn't do that.
Yeah,
they
that's
have an
right.
affiliation.
They
for
watch one
news,
or the other.
They have an affiliation for one news service over another, and therefore, however they're receiving the information they're receiving completely taints their interpretation of whatever facts.
Also the 24-hour news cycle. So aside from having the polarizing views, the fact that you've got it happening 24 hours a day where the news breaks, and then, of course, David, as you know, David Campbell, you were saying that after the Today Show, you might get another story that then you'd have to include in your show, and then, of course, there might be something in a midday show. But even still, we're probably looking at maybe 4 times a story gets touched on and someone adds their voice to it. Here, it is constant. It is like, okay, this story broke, and now we're going to bring this person in to give their opinion on it, and they're going to add something else to it and someone else's voice and add a little bit more fear or add a little bit more delusion or add a little bit more whatever it is and mix it in the pot. And it's so overwhelming and fatiguing that I don't watch the news anymore. I get my updates. I go to particular sources for my news online, and that's it. And it's hard because, Rob, you're right. When you see somebody leading this country and you're an immigrant and you're hearing what he's saying, which is why I joke about the fact that I've been so busy injecting disinfectant into myself. It's like when you think that it's not going to get worse, and then it does.
Yeah, the problem is, and Nick is, let's just preface this by saying that Nick is being sarcastic when he says that. But the our news cycle is certainly when it's a regular news cycle is difficult enough as it is, because you are injecting other voices.
Disinfectant.
You're injecting other voices into one story, and that's fine.
But it's not 24-hour news. It's 23-hour opinion, 1 hour news.
Yeah, but however, what's happening now with COVID and what the extraordinary thing is, what's stretching media so far now with no advertising dollars, is that news is breaking like every hour on the hour, and sometimes multiple stories are breaking at the same time. And then you throw into that in America, basically, and I don't mind being political, people can come at me on my Facebook on this, but you have a toxic leader that's trying to, sow disinformation, that's, being purposely antagonizing to the press, trying to make people, distance themselves from that and trust their own sources. And then he's also on Twitter adding, and you have to,
inflaming and inciting people.
No, but also as the media, you actually have to follow what the president says on Twitter. That's their job. So instead of just being, you've got COVID and everything else, you've also got this wave of information you have to report on top. So yeah, it becomes absolutely overwhelming. But I would love to hear what Americans think about, as particularly the state of politics over there and the state of the country over there.
Dave's back. There he is. I was going to say, Dave.
I think the real pandemic came way before Wuhan, and the real pandemic is the delegitimization of facts and science, and the acceleration of factoids or opinions or hunches that is so efficiently done in the rapid news cycle and the social media. And that is the perfect setup for anything that could become a pandemic to go completely haywire as this one did. You couldn't have planned a better attack on civilized society than to start by delegitimizing facts and then have some irrefutable, unfixable, unpoliticized facts land on us that need to be dealt with in a factual way. And we, as usual, making stuff talk about clarity on TV and our next election and what's going on with Wall Street poisoning the way to deal with something that needed to be dealt with in a more factual way. It's the same reason we can't face climate change. It's the same reason that other catastrophes that are headed our way, we're going to be extremely sluggish to fix.
Yeah. Don't you think this is our chance to actually get it back? I mean, what I mean is get back the respect for science and the respect for facts, and actually the fact that we're prevented from being near each other make us want that even more. I don't know. I feel like maybe this is this reset opportunity. We can
like a
actually
tipping point.
Yes.
I want to jump in on that point, because that's a great segue about the reset and the opportunity to turn this into something positive. You know, obviously being over here, it's difficult to participate in time with the Anzac Day ceremonies that are happening at dawn and so forth. But I'm looking at these comments that are coming in here, so please don't think I'm not listening. I'm just trying to pull some stuff.
He's bored.
I'm bored with you all.
Yeah. So bored.
It would be like if we're at dinner, and I would just be on my phone like this. Cool, Dave. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. No, and people
put the device down.
No more screen time for you, mate. People are saying exactly that, and that is the dawn services, the makeshift impromptu dawn services where everyone's come out to their driveway, has been such an emotionally bonding thing for Australia, that people that they didn't even know before, they never even said hello to their neighbours, they're starting to form that kind of bond. So I think that's a positive, and I think have been honestly some really great things that have come out of all of this turmoil. I wanted to pose this question to everybody, which is, I have started to form an appreciation for things that I really miss about not being able to go out.
Like me.
Yeah. And then things
Lisa gets it. She gets it.
And then things that I don't miss at all, that I was doing all the time out of habit, and just being like, oh, that's just how things are done. And now I haven't been able to do them, and I was like, oh, or maybe I don't even need to do that anymore.
What are those things?
Getting a haircut.
Well, that's verging on necessity at this point for me. That's an essential worker if I've ever heard of it.
He won't let me cut his hair. I've cut the girl's hair, and I've actually cut my hair. The beauty of actually the Zooms is that you don't actually have to style the back of your head. You only have to just do a few curls in the front, and you're good to go.
So I wanted to.
Did anyone see that? Sorry, Mark. Did anyone see that Indian reporter in Mumbai? That behind him were mountains that no one in that massive city had ever seen before in their lifetimes.
Because the air was clear.
Because the air for the first time in that enormous polluted city was clean. And the idea now that we would go back to that same pollution, and that China, as we speak, is ramping up the production of coal-fired power stations with, by the way, partly Australian coal. That's another story. The fact that we wouldn't take this opportunity to go, okay, this is fantastic. You know, the air is clean. We live very luckily near Sydney Harbour. The water is still warm and clean. I had a swim this morning. The jets don't break the curfew coming in at 2 minutes to 6 every morning to come in, and it's quiet. And as Mark said, neighbours are talking. People are doing things. I mean, the lawns around here have never been so beautifully mown. People are gardening and painting. There's a line at Bunnings, which for the Americans is like a Walmart, queued around the block.
Home Depot.
Yeah, Home Depot. Yeah, to get paint and to get gardening stuff.
It's got to wait though now, Rob. You got to line up out the front and wait.
You guys have to wait in lines that have been marked out 6 feet apart and all that kind of stuff, and you must have a face covering when you go inside.
Yes. Well, yeah. Not everyone has a face cover, but a lot of people have, and getting with the program. And
we won't be admitted into any store anywhere unless you have a face covering. You won't be allowed into any.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people are making very groovy face covers now. There's a whole people are making their own, and they look amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Rob, I knew you'd have some thoughts about how the environment's going throughout this, and do you have any facts on the barrier reef, or any kind?
Well,
has it been reversed somewhat? Is there any hope for us?
Well, David and Lisa and Felicity know that.
So we're doing a delay. We just saw David's face mask. That's very good.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, sadly, during this whole virus business, the Great Barrier Reef, our national and international treasure, has been hit by another massive bleaching event. There've already been two. There was one in 2 years ago and one the year before that. And now with this massive bleaching event, which is related to the warming of the oceans and the acidification of the water, we are now seriously in danger of losing this extraordinary treasure forever. Well, certainly at least for this generation and the generations of our kids and grandkids. And it is a tragedy. And the government's thrown a few $1 million, here, there and everywhere. But don't get me started. There's a huge coal mine up in Queensland, Indian-owned, which has been the point of controversy for ages. And it's been given the go-ahead by the state government and federal government, and this will largely contribute to the fossil fuels and the junk that we put into the atmosphere here and overseas, and where the coal is burnt. And at the same time, the rest of the world's trying to save reefs and trying to breathe clean air and trying to move towards a renewables energy future. And Australia is once again, and our leaders are captive to the fossil fuel industry. Mm-hmm. They're big, and I know that happens in the United States, probably even worse. And so you've got thousands and thousands of jobs, tourist people who work on the reef, whose jobs have been sacrificed now because there will be no reef the way we're going. Only very small pockets of coloured coral are left. And you've got, an automated coal mine. There might be people working on it when it's built, but when it is built, it'll be entirely automated, and there might be 20 or 30 people working. But still, they talk about all these jobs for coal workers. It's just insane, and we've completely lost the plot over our priorities in this country.
Mm-hmm. We really have. I think someone mentioned it before as well. Once we come out of this, I think it was Dr. David. I think that when we all come out of this as a planet, the next big dilemma and crisis we're going to experience is the fact that pollution is going to go up again in major cities. We're going to see more pollutants going into the air, more drilling for oil and coal, and we're going to be looking at, because I've been going out at night and we're taking Lisa out and go, look at the sky. And Rob, you can say this too. Sydney at nighttime is like being in the outback. Yes. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the stars so clear. I've never seen it's like the whole universe is looking at us. It's been extraordinary, and I don't know what happens when we go back to whatever the new normal is going to be, when Australians or everyone in the world is going to start turning and going, I actually quite like some of the other stuff that we learned from COVID. Yeah. And I'm not talking about bad stuff. I'm certainly not talking about the debt. I'm certainly not talking about the disparity in wealth and welfare and how that manages in every country, but I'm talking about in the environment alone, what we will miss. And I think we'll keep our sense of community. I think that will stay. But I think that we will definitely have to tackle climate next. And the billions that all of a sudden, Rob, and you can speak to this too, all of a sudden governments go, no, we don't have that. Oh, yeah, we got heaps here. Have hundreds of millions. Have billions if you want. We'll pay for it later. Your grandkids can pay for it. Well, we couldn't do that with welfare, and we can't do that with the environment. And I find that those two things are going to need to change.
That's it.
Yeah.
So do you think that there are a few many positive things, hopefully, that can come out of this COVID thing. I view one potential positive thing as the following. The petroleum industry and its lobby has run this country and has run its economy for 5 decades. And maybe for the first time, or for sure the worst time, it's an unstable market when a barrel of oil, you can't give it away. And at the same time, we're making a lot of progress toward alternative fuels. And could we emerge from this saying, when I say we, I mean people who have invested everything in oil and want to drill in our national parks and so forth. Do you suppose those industries are going to go, maybe it's time to start thinking about the next thing, because the profit may not be here. This is now instead of the prime market, maybe this is a business that is a little less stable.
And we're all pivoting, aren't we? And they're going to have to too.
What's that?
We're all pivoting in some way.
Yeah.
All of us are sort of being forced to. And David, it was funny what you were saying about the stars in Sydney, that you've never seen the skies like that. I've literally never seen stars in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Totally.
Like, never. You look up sometimes and you hope that's a star and you're like, no, that's a plane. And now I'm seeing stars in the night sky, and I'm also, during the daytime, if you can get up to the top of the canyons, you can see out to Santa Monica and you can see out to Catalina Island, which might not mean much to you guys, but it's pretty extraordinary to be able to see that far in LA. So it's had incredible impact on the air quality here as well.
Well, I wanted to for a second just reach out to the folks that are watching online here.
Wait, before you do that, I just have to say goodbye. I have to go do my show. We do a little show every night just for 15 minutes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Terry Jo. Bye, Terry Jo.
Love you. Thank you so much for being with us. We love you. Bye, Louie.
That show goes on the other island.
Your own show going on.
Some of the guys
that island has talent. My island just has
thin food.
Poor Dr. Dave.
There is folks on both sides of this conversation here weighing in. Everybody wants to stay positive, of course, which I think is the right approach. I wanted to just throw this out to everyone watching. Switching gears, binge-worthy television. Has anybody discovered some new shows or a book that they are suddenly addicted to and that they strongly recommend? I want to hear from you, Felicity. Anything, go.
No.
When does she have time?
She's too busy being like looking after her kids and homeschooling and making music and everything else.
Well, I've also discovered plumbing, and on the end of a shovel in the backyard, digging trenches and connecting with the neighbours, cooking in the kitchen. I've discovered cookbooks, a few more, actually opening pages and going, okay, well, let's make something. So yes, I guess, there we go. I jumped on that way too quickly. Cooking and a bit of plumbing and learning how to get these hands dirty. Actually, they're really gnarly at the moment. So there you go. There's my spin.
Okay, love it. Nick.
Yes, I've been very busy recreating the Olympics in my apartment by myself. I'm on day 50 of isolation, so yeah, you can check that out on my Instagram.
Okay, love it.
And aside from that, I found that I really needed to slow down a lot. I was almost operating at a manic level. So this has been good for me in that respect. But being a single person, I did hit a wall where it started to get a bit rough. So I've been applying everywhere to foster an animal because I wanted to take in a dog.
Yeah,
and after 6 weeks of applying everywhere, I got this girl, Madge.
Baby.
Where are you?
And she's
Anyway, I'll pick her up later. But anyway, so I've got a cuddle buddy now, and that's made all the difference for me. It's been really
good. Amazing. Rob, have you read any books that you recommend in this downtime?
Or written any?
Yeah. Leslie kindly bought me Story of John Entwistle, the Who bassist, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a real Who fan. But I saw a film that I highly recommend, or a series, which is called Unorthodox.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Regarding an ultra-Orthodox family from Williamsburg in Brooklyn, New York, and based on a true story whereby she throws off the shackles of this extraordinary lifestyle of basically being married off when she's very young and starting to make babies straight away, and she would have none of that. So it's extraordinary. I mean, it's an introduction to a world that I'd never seen before, and I highly recommend it.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. Guys at home are saying, let me weigh in here. Claire says Unorthodox is on Netflix. Is that correct?
Yeah. Hey, Lisa and David, do you get any NBC shows over there? Because you two love Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Oh yeah, that's on Stan here. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay. How camp is it? It's fantastic.
My ex-girlfriend, I like it.
Amanda says she's watching Tiger King. We haven't done that.
We haven't done it.
You haven't seen Tiger King?
Yeah. Everyone keeps telling us about it, but we haven't gone there yet. We haven't been there yet.
I lasted one episode with Tiger King. It reminded me of the front row of our audiences too much. I just didn't know.
Dr. David.
So, yeah, I feel a little bit cheated by this whole thing because I don't have these big long tracks of free time because I still go to work and do this stuff every day. But I have discovered a few things. There's a couple things that I think can come out of this that I've discovered that I think maybe deserve to be woven into our culture. One is that, Easter came and went and everybody was quarantined and it was a very different thing. And traditions about what we have for meals have come from all varied sources historically. Shouldn't we take from this that Easter should be a meal that we celebrate as stuff that we find that we already got in the closet that we've never eaten before? Because this has been an awakening opportunity to dig back into the deep parts of the shelves and find things.
Yes.
Pretty creative, or maybe a failed meal, but a meal some there, and isn't that good all around? It empties shelves. It's more ecological, and I think that needs to be a custom that's woven into our society. The other thing is that you can't get the stuff you need. If you can't go to the store, you can't get the stuff you need, but there's still projects that need to be done. Not proud of current state support posts.
Well, you're breaking up a bit there, Dave.
Yeah, Dave, we've lost you.
We're gonna dive in. A couple other folks have said Outer Banks. Julie Fowler says Outer Banks on Netflix is pretty solid. What else? A lot of other folks are agreeing. I'm going to throw this over to Lisa. Any book or binge show that has become your new favorite?
We watched Tiger King. We're now doing season 3 of Ozark, which is incredible. What it's done is it's created a specific time of the day where all of David's anxiety can ramp up and really, really focus itself. Which
right before bedtime.
Yeah, so which I
good. Yeah.
Reading. No, we've got 3 kids under 9. That's not happening. But I've started gardening.
Okay.
For the first time in my life. And it's been a joy. And so now we're 6 weeks into gardening, and yesterday we ate food that I'd grown. Now I know I know lots of people have been doing this for a while.
Centuries. Yeah.
Have you smoked anything you've grown yet?
On the corners.
I have to come here to do that.
David and Lisa,
what did you grow? That's pretty fast.
That is 6 weeks.
Kale and mint.
Kale and mint, yeah.
Nice.
David and Lisa, you've got 3 under 9, as you said, and twins, and they're absolutely the most gorgeous kids. What sort of when you're going stir crazy and losing it, what's your new go-to with the kids? New activity?
The boys is bike riding. The boys. Who's that? Is that Nick? It's like Hollywood's opened up again. Nick's in work.
I gotta take this.
Yes.
No, because Nick announced you were single, and then suddenly the phone ran hot.
Oh, I wish.
That ISO-mo is working for you, Nick.
Thanks so much.
Sorry, David and Lisa again.
Bike riding for the boys has been a big thing. Betty.
Oh, the makeovers.
Makeovers for Betty.
Yeah, we really, really tried hard to ensure that there wasn't that sort of gender stereotyping. Come on, it's fine. You can play with trucks, Betty. You can play with trucks. And yet
you can be a feminist icon.
All she wants to do is put on makeup. And so, yes, they just like smeared across. That's her go-to.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah,
and just even in school holidays, just trying to keep some semblance of order with work and at school work and stuff like that for Leo. And
just the routine of it. The routine keeps them sane and us.
I've been teaching them how to sing. That's what I've been doing. 4 times a week we go into the piano room and I teach them Hey Jude, and they have to learn that, and then they have to learn they like Greatest Showman, so I'm trying to play Greatest Showman songs on the piano, which I'm terrible at, but I know they know it and they can sing together. I'm trying to teach them how important that is too.
Also, we can monetize that
the
other way around.
They're college funds right there.
Yeah,
well, listen, I want to just begin to wrap this up. I have a feeling it might take a little minute. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for giving their time away. And this has been
Mark, we haven't asked you any questions.
Oh, it's okay. Everybody knows it.
How's your job surviving, or jobs surviving?
My multiple jobs, they're all going okay. Yeah, they're all going okay. I think keeping the sanity here at the house has been tough. My Amazon purchases have gone through the roof. So
he just learned how to make sushi last night. Like we did.
Wow.
Made sushi from
Oh,
scratch.
hello, darling.
Hi to Betty, everybody.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So cute.
We locked our children in the garage. They're literally locked in the garage right now.
They discovered the garage last night, actually, and they said, so, you can watch a movie while we do this, whatever you want to do, and they're like, we'd like to go and camp in the garage. So they literally are out in the garage.
Terrible idea.
You think that's an awful idea?
We'll see you later on. We'll be out.
And that was Betty Campbell.
What a cameo.
I'm so sorry, Jane. Sorry, Mark.
I want to say thank you to everybody that's been weighing in with comments here. We've had some crackers that I haven't had a chance. I haven't got a word in edgeways here to be able to read them out. But
You guys written some songs while
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
It's my show, for God's
I
sake.
want to talk.
Chris Brown says he loves the
and
dark.
another thing.
Tony Glover says he was probably one of those people in the front row that you were referring to.
But he's got all his teeth.
So far, he has his teeth. Yes, we've got Scott Priestley, who's tuning in, who has got a bunch of comments. Sue Wilson says that she's loved watching a bunch of the artists on live streams during this period, something that she wouldn't have done before, which I think is amazing, and I agree. If only we could work out a way for everyone to get paid for that, would be great too. Maddie Owen says hello. Yeah, so anyway, thank you to everybody who's been joining in online. This has been really, really fun. And it kind of has made me feel like we're sitting around a table. So let's put some social connection back in our lives a little bit.
Thank you guys for organising it.
To answer questions, we have been, I've been homeschooling every day, the girls. So they're 6 and 8, and luckily our school is just wonderful. And the teachers have provided these fantastic packets of work, and they have online work that they can do. They have classroom Zooms, and the teachers have just lifted and gone above and beyond. So we're really lucky. So that kind of takes up most of the day. My one saving grace, which I've really enjoyed, is us going out every single morning as a family. The girls are on their bikes and we just go out for a walk or a run. And then I'm like, okay, I can do another day of this. I can think of new ideas. There's been all sorts of things that we've introduced, but and sometimes we absolutely lose it. Like I just get exhausted. The chatter, the constant chatter, just the kid conversations in my head. And sometimes I just go, I have to just go and sit outside on my own and just hear nothing for a little bit. But musically, we're working on a record at the moment, and that has been pushed back till later in the year. We were going to sort of release earlier this year, but of course with everybody else's projects, we're on hold for that too, and same with shows. But generally, we're just trying to keep really positive about it all and enjoy hanging out together, which we don't always get to do. Like there's Mark's always traveling a lot, so it's really nice to actually just be home as a family and just hanging out and playing Monopoly and Scrabble and reading books. And we're teaching the girls piano, a bit of singing, David and Lisa, but they don't like to learn how to sing from me. Like it's a weird, they're like, I've got it, don't tell me, mummy, I don't want to know. So it's really I have to just kind of like let them find their way with it. But we've been teaching them a lot about the 80s, and so they've been giving what's their new one?
Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Bonnie, what's her name? Tyler, thrashing that one out. Yeah. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified of it. That's big in our household, and we're just basically trying to give them some music education. But I don't know. That's pretty much it. I don't know if I've got anything else to add. Well, you had one last question. One very, very quick question for everybody to go through very quickly. First place you're going to go on a holiday when this is all done?
And Nick, go.
Reef.
Where?
Mykonos.
Mykonos. Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Rob?
Folagandros.
Where is that?
Next to Mykonos.
Oh,
You're very right. I'll see you there. We'll have cocktails.
Liz, you going to woy or?
I want to go back to Tamworth and hug my parents.
No.
Sappy, right? Oh,
yeah,
sweet.
Right
It doesn't count as a holiday, does it? Gosh, visiting your family?
Yeah, it does. They do everything.
Oh, right. Yes, for you it certainly would be, of course.
David and Lisa?
Thank you, Mum.
I want to go somewhere populated. I'll go Tokyo.
I want to go Disneyland.
In Tokyo. Nice.
Tokyo Disney.
Okay, Disney.
Yeah.
Take our kids somewhere where they can just be run amok.
Dr. Dave?
California, Colorado, Virginia, New York. That's where all the kids are, and a grandson.
Your babies.
Yes,
your grown-up
First
babies.
on the list, those 4 places.
Okay. Where are we going?
I want to go to Mykonos too, actually. You stole my thunder.
I've got a great place to stay. Come with, kids.
Okay.
It sounds like
Can we bring
everyone's
the kids?
invited. Everyone who's watching is invited
You
to
come to Mykonos. You come to Mykonos.
Thank you, everybody. So cool.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
So great to catch up with y'all. Thank you, everybody,
Thanks,
for watching
everybody,
online.
for joining
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Stay safe,
Bye, guys.